At least 4 police officers were shot in a wave of unrelated attacks around the country targeting law enforcement. A gunman ambushed a St. Louis police sergeant late last night, shooting him twice in the face. The sergeant is expected to survive. The suspect was killed in a shootout with police. Another officer was shot and wounded in Gladstone, Missouri, near Kansas City during a traffic stop. The gunman was killed at the scene.
A suspect is in custody for shooting a Sanibel, Florida police officer also during a traffic stop. The officer is expected to survive. But in San Antonio, Texas, a massive manhunt is underway for a gunman who ambushed and killed a detective. Benjamin Marconi was a 20-year veteran of the force. Omar Villafranca is out.
Afghan officials say at least 30 people have died in a suicide bomb attack in a mosque in the capital. Some 80 people are said to have been injured, several seriously, and the death toll is expected to rise. The bomb was detonated as people gathered for a ceremony to commemorate the death of Shia martyr Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. This police official said civilians have been martyred and dozens of others were wounded. They've been transferred to hospitals. The Taliban was quick to deny involvement. Shortly afterwards, Sunni Muslim group ISIL claimed responsibility for the bombing, which came amid a series of sectarian attacks carried out by the militants.
Ongoing riot is a term they used at one point to describe the scene at the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation there in North Dakota. The sheriff's deputies called the demonstrators very aggressive as they try to cross police lines on a bridge and go north on a freeway. Protesters reportedly set several fires, and then authorities responded with water cannons on both the fires and the demonstrators. On social media, the Standing Rock Medic and Healer Council called for an immediate stop to the use of the water cannons in these very cold 20-degree temperatures, saying that hypothermia could lead to loss of life. So far, there has been one arrest during this clash with police. This, of course, the latest incident in a series of them along the pipeline, which will stretch from western North Dakota down to Illinois.
More than 100 people are now said to have died after a train derailed in northern India. It happened in the early hours of the morning in the nation's biggest state, Uttar Pradesh. The train was travelling between the cities of Patna and Indore. At least 150 people are said to have been injured. The numbers are expected to rise. Many were said to have been asleep when the crash happened. All of a sudden, there was a massive jolt. Our heads collided with the roof of the coach as it was derailed. We somehow managed to get out, but the door couldn't be opened. As rescue operations continue, emergency workers have been trying to free passengers who were trapped using special cutting equipment. 14 carriages came off the track, 3 of them severely crushed. Indian Railways have a poor safety record. It's still not clear what caused the accident.
Well, good evening to you, Brian. We have temperatures in the teens right now and snow that started around 1 o'clock this afternoon and has not let up since. On top of that, we're getting a wind some 10 to 20 miles per hour that is just making it unbearable out here. But of course, all of this winter weather did not start here. It pummeled the Midwest early this morning, right around the commute time in Chicago. They were met with 2 to 4 inches in the downtown area. And then anyone commuting from the suburbs into the Windy City was faced with 6 to 9 inches of snow. In Milwaukee, thunder snow there led to nearly a foot, and then in Detroit, upwards of 8 inches. Now, this led to cancellations starting in the Midwest with 300 in Chicago, and that, of course, as our storm moved, headed into the Northeast with some 650 cancellations in the New York City area. Now, the storm system right now is starting to weaken over the Northeast, but we're still looking at heavy snow from Hartford right into Boston, and then another storm system will be taking shape as we head into Sunday's forecast. But again, we're still looking at some heavy snow here over the next 2 to 3 hour period, and then our next storm will be developing over the Tennessee Valley and slamming the interior Northeast on Sunday with possibly a foot of snow. And to make matters worse, Brian, this morning, still thousands of people in New Hampshire and Massachusetts woke up without power from a ice storm we were standing in 1 week ago today. It has been a tough past couple of weeks, and it's not even winter officially yet.
The whole as long as the level of the sea keeps on deteriorating, the situation of the sea it keeps on getting worse. We are seeing the growth of sinkholes accelerating. This causes the major problems with buildings and infrastructures in the area. We are standing in the closed resort of En-Gedi. It's used to be a very lively place filled with bungalows and tents for tourists. And you can see all around you, it's completely gone. The buildings have collapsed into holes. The electricity lights, the sewage, water lines, everything simply collapses. And leaving a complete destruction of the area.
The letter to a British judge from a teenage girl suffering from cancer was heartbreaking. I'm only 14 years old and I don't want to die, but I know I'm going to die. I think being cryopreserved gives me a chance to be cured and woken up, even in hundreds of years' time. After consulting with her family, the judge agreed.
It was about respecting the wishes of a bright and intelligent and articulate 14-year-old.
The unnamed teenager died last month. Her body quickly rushed to the Cryonics Institute in Detroit, where it was frozen and placed in a supercooled container like this one. The cost, $28,000. How does it work? Another cryonics facility in Phoenix says within a few minutes of death, the body is packed in ice. Technicians then administer a cocktail of 16 different drugs and rush the patient to a facility where fluids are replaced with a kind of antifreeze. The body is then placed in a special tank where the temperature drops to minus 320 degrees.
At that temperature, you could wait for decades or a century, and you would be in pretty much exactly the same condition as when you started.
Pope Francis granting all Catholic priests the right to forgive abortion. In a letter to priests, the Pope writes that there's no question that abortion is considered a grave sin under Catholic law, but adds, quote, "There is no sin that God's mercy cannot reach and wipe away when it finds a repentant heart." The Pope concludes every priest may provide support and comfort to facilitate reconciliation. This is a big deal for Catholics because there is a culture within that faith of ostracizing people who do certain things. You used to not be able to receive communion when you got divorced. Yeah. That's still in the books. So this Pope has been trying to inch the individual pastor to make the rules for their own congregation.
Right, towards forgiveness.